What's up, everybody? Logan Hartle here, and today I want to talk to you about 3 ways to add value to industrial real estate. So follow along. All right, so all 3 of these ways are based on net operating income, right? NOI. So if you spent any time in the commercial real estate space, you'll probably know what NOI and cap rates are and how they relate to the value of the property. We're not going to go into too much depth about those in this video. If you're not familiar with those, it's probably a great place to start your commercial real estate journey, is starting to understand some of the terms. So go look up net operating income, cap rates, and how they pertain to the value of real estate if you're not familiar with it. So just as a quick refresher, NOI divided by your cap rate is your price, your sale price, or your property value, if you will. So that's what we're going to be working on today. We're going to be looking at ways to add to that NOI to increase the value of industrial real estate. Typical ways that I see out in the marketplace, myself or other investors doing to add value to industrial real estate. So without any further ado, let's jump right in. Okay, so way number 1. The first way I see people adding value to industrial real estate is by buying vacant or partially vacant buildings and leasing them up. So it probably makes sense to a lot of you that a vacant building is not going to sell for as much money as a property that's got a really good tenant in there, 5, 7, 10-year lease tenant in there. There's more risk with vacant properties. So there's obviously going to be a lower demand for vacant properties, which is also going to cause that dollar per square foot to be a little bit lower. So, but it also adds some value there for you as the investor to be able to buy that property, lease it up, and then get a much greater return than buying something that's already leased. Just a couple side notes. It's important to know your market if you're going to do this strategy. If you're going to buy vacant property and lease it up, make sure you can actually get it leased out, make sure there's demand there, and make sure you can get financing on it, right? So a lot of these properties, you may not be able to get great terms. I've seen financing in, we're in 2021 right now, November 30th, 2021 right now. I've seen financing at, 30 or 4% for really good properties that are leased for 10 years plus, but you may be able to get, 20%, 25% down. You have a vacant property, you may get 60-40, 50-50 LTV, depending on the market and depending on how risky the bank thinks it is. So just make sure you can get financing on it if you're going to do that. As a caveat, kind of the opposite side of that coin is, they may be great opportunities for you to ask about seller financing. So if a property is vacant, it's been sitting vacant for a while, and you think you can get it leased up, approach the owner. Say, look, especially if they've had the property for a while, they may be willing. They may have some equity there, and they might be willing to do an owner financing situation where you can owner finance, you can get the building leased up, and then refi once it's leased up. And now a bank's interested because you've got a nice long-term tenant in place. So that is way number 1. All right, so the strategy number 2 that investors use to increase the value of industrial real estate is to buy a property that's got just a few years left on the lease, right? Typically what you'll see is this is a scenario in which maybe there's 2 to 3 years left on the lease. It's time for lease renewal. Maybe there's no renewals left on the end of that lease, and this tenant is either going to have to sign a new lease or they're going to be leaving. Now, typically this works in a scenario in which, let's say, the end of this lease, the property is leased at $3 per square foot, and the market has grown and the escalations on that lease have not kept up with the escalations in the market or the rent growth in the market. So you may have a scenario in which this property is currently leased at $3 a foot and the market's now at $4.50. So you'll see investors who will basically buy this property knowing that either this tenant's going to sign at $4.50 or they're going to go find another tenant who will sign at $4.50. So, typically these are areas where they know there's high demand. They know they can get this leased out, and the investor, knows that for the remainder of the lease period, they're at least going to cash flow for a little bit, and then they're going to lease it at a higher rate once that's done. So that's way number 2. Here comes number 3. Okay, the third way, and these aren't the only ways, but this is the third way that I see a lot of investors increasing value of industrial real estate, and that's through conversion, right? So they're going to convert them to something else. Now, we see a lot of these happening in converting to smaller bay industrials, right? So you buy a property that's 50,000 square feet, let's say, and let's say in that market, the property can lease for $4 a square foot. Right, so you can get $50 a foot, or excuse me, 50,000 square feet at $4 a foot. Well, in that same market, 10,000 square feet might lease for $5 a foot. 2,500 square feet might lease for $8 to $10 a foot, right? So you can see where if you can break this up into multiple tenants and multiple bays, you may be able to get 2 to 3 times what you're currently able to get by leasing the whole building to one tenant. Now, there are some drawbacks there. There's more management. You actually have to, find far more tenants. Typically, smaller bay industrial are shorter leases, and you may not get a 5 to 10 year lease on those. But you can see dramatically how you can increase that NOI relatively quickly by taking something from $4 to $8 to $10 a foot. And there's some investment that's involved there in making sure that you can separate utilities and you can add, fire rated walls if necessary in between the units. So, but those are some ways to do it. So that's the third way, is converting to small bay. Okay, so that's the 3 ways to add value to industrial buildings. There are more ways. So if you're trying to, if you're trying to lease to an end user, or if you're trying to sell to an end user, you may be able to add amenities, knock out dock doors, build docking areas, add parking, things like that you can use to add amenities to a potential end user to make the property more attractive. But for this purpose and for the purposes of this video, we're just focusing on the investors and how to add value as an investor. So those are 3 ways you can do it. Interested in hearing more ways? If you want to chat, if you want to drop something in the comments section, appreciate that. And we'll chat about different ways to add value in the comments section. But yeah, thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. That really helps the algorithm and getting our content out there so that more people can watch it. But appreciate you following along, and stay tuned for more videos.